Safe measure. Thanks, AI. We get another blooper. Blooper. Thanks. Make sure that leg wasn't there, and so boom, all of our drinks go down. Because that would be actually how it goes, not the record button, but the let's just see how many colors we can get on the table with coffee.
Yeah, that would be fun.
Okay. All right. Cheers.
Cheers.
Okay. Hmm. Trying to slurp, sorry. So I felt like I just did with my coffee. Well, I put lipstick on. So that was the first thing.
I put lipstick on too, but you can't really see it from here.
You like my blazer?
I do. I like your blazer.
I almost got an even brighter one. Like a very blue one, but I was like, not sure about that one. Okay.
Blue would go with your eyes.
I know. But if I wear green, green comes out my eyes too, so
Yes.
depends on the day. All right. Good. Do you know what the theme is for them?
Vision clarity.
You cheated. No, I'm just
I
kidding.
did cheat. I did look ahead of time.
Okay. All right. So let me just look at this one more time. I want to go through. But I don't want to clip that because I'm going to hear me rustling the papers.
Right.
Should be fine. There we go. Okay. All right.
Okay.
KK. Oh, I have an action thing too. That's funny. Doesn't actually click. But... All right. Good?
Yep.
Great. Grand. You're like, let's go. Let's see which hand I'm going to hold my warm coffee. There I go. All right. Welcome to the Choose on Purpose podcast. I'm your host, Becky Ploutz, and today I get to talk with Miss Tara Parks in person. If you're watching the video, you can see that we are shoulder to shoulder over here in the studio getting to talk today all around vision clarity, which is the theme inside of the Work on Purpose with Purpose community space. And Tara, welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
I'm honored and very happy and excited to be here today. So thank you for inviting me.
Yay. Nice little cozy conversation in our day. So actually, I want to, Tara, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and how do we know each other?
Oh boy.
Or like, yeah, how are we connected right now? Because we're going to dive in and talk about vision. And I feel like the fact that we've like grown our friendship and our relationship over the last couple of years. I don't even know how many years. How many years have we known each other?
It's been at least 3 years.
It's been at least 3 years. Yeah, I think it is 3 years for sure. Probably
Maybe
like three and a half.
Yeah, 3.5.
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
Okay.
So I'm Tara Parks. I am a mother of two. I have a lifetime partner of 9 years, and I love to, I don't know, lifelong learner. I love to learn new things. I'm very into education and self-development. And so I met Becky about 3.5 years ago through a mutual friend and had joined the Polka Dot Powerhouse, which is a connection community, and joined 3 years ago. And Becky and I just developed this kind of connection, despite what our astrological uh, app says that, we would be at odds with things, which was kind of funny, which we learned like this last year. But Becky and I have been able to talk. We go on hikes together. We have connected through the Work on Purpose with Purpose community and have really worked together through multiple projects and have developed this really, really unique friendship, I think.
Yeah, we've done a couple different workshops and classes together. We got certified as coaches, success coaches
Yep.
together as
Yep.
well.
Yep.
So
We've
we've been
done
on some retreats together.
yeah,
We've done lots of
trips together
adventures.
to Boise, and
Yep.
so yeah, we've had a lot of we've spent a lot of time together actually.
We have a pretty dynamic relationship. So
Yeah.
I'm excited to have Tara in person. This is the first time that Tara's got to come in person on the podcast. We've done virtual, so there's some episodes that I'll probably link below that we've done a conversation around an acronym, which is what we're doing here today. So the vision clarity theme is what we are talking about this month, and I bring the an acronym around our topic to really help us just hone in on some ideas, some experiences that we have shared or had, I mean, that we can share with you to really give some insights around how to live with purpose. So, right, because this community is all about living with intention and purpose, that's always what these acronyms and these strategy hours once a month that I bring to you and have a community conversation. It's all leading back to building a strategy, which is that acronym we're going to talk about, which is vision today. That's the acronym. So if you're taking notes, which highly encouraged, then grab out a notebook and write out vision. Okay. So that's the acronym that we're going to work through. And we're here because clarity creates momentum. So sharing these stories, giving some insights around like what our goals might be and how we're refining our own vision and receiving more clarity in real life situation. This is really to help you as a listener to take some notes for yourself and take stock in your own life to see where you want some more clarity in your vision. So, um, okay, so let's dive into the acronym because I'll have like a question that just kind of helps us have some conversation and navigate us. So we'll go with the V right away, and that's about values. So I have it listed as values first. Now, we've even been to a couple workshops together on
Mhm.
values. I think that we did a painting night
Mhm.
around values, which Tara is very creative. So it's always fun to do those kinds of things with someone that would identify as creative, as someone that I don't claim that I'm like painting creative. I'm creative in different ways. But so values to me is super important because it guides me like where I'm going with how I'm feeling inside, the person that I'm going, like that I'm practicing being. So, what values guide us in the way that we're choosing to take action or not in our lives is a big deal. So, um, just opening the conversation to say, like, what kind of values guide your decisions even today with where you're at?
I think going through the values workshop was a really cool experience for me because up until that point, it was very difficult for me to verbalize and really identify what some of those values are. I
Uh,
think through a lot of society pressure and just cultural expectations, family is one of those values that we feel should be at the top of our list. And it's not always, just because it's not at the top of your list doesn't mean that family isn't of value to you.
right.
But there are other things because we are all people prior to becoming parents, prior to becoming partners, prior to
Mm,
becoming who we are in our professional life. And so, you know, uh, being able to separate that vision and those values from the things that we do is extremely important. And so going through that workshop really helped me identify what some of those values were. And in the top seven, we started out with 100 different values,
yeah, that was a lot.
possibilities, and there was a ton. But we had to in this workshop condense them down into seven top things. And what I thought was going to be my top really wasn't even in that top at all.
Hmm.
Creativity was one of my top seven. Um, and being a utilitarian, meaning utilizing the resources that you have
Mm.
at your disposal without having to always buy new things. And I've really recognized that in myself, in my relationship, in um, how I, you know, I'm not belongings kind of person. I'm not a very materialistic kind of person. And so, I'm all about using what we have to be creative. I love painting with wood. And so that's like one of my creative outlets. And I don't need to go out and buy this fancy wood from the store, from Michael's, from, a big box retail
Yeah.
store to
Go in
be
the
able to
woods.
create. Right. I just love to create and use what nature gave us, which is the natural wood from nature. And the process of sanding and doing all the things. Anyways, I digress. But those are the parts of the things that I love, that I found that I really value. Um, and so finding that clarity really helped me. And I still have the my values um, picture that I painted, which was actually a very pretty picture.
Mhm.
Part of what was really cool about that experiment was the colors that we used in this creative painting, in our artwork, really had a representation of what that value meant to us. And
Mhm.
so I created my picture without even looking at the definition of what the colors were. And at the end,
I think it even came later. I think we didn't even know that.
right,
It was like all
maybe
part of the
that's it.
process. It was like, don't prejudge it. It was
Right,
just as a process, as a step in it. It was like, oh, and now you're going to identify like which color did you use for that? And then it really was
right.
just truth telling to like our core of how,
Yes.
apparent that core value is in your life.
Right. And so if you had colors in your painting that you really didn't identify as a value,
Hmm.
but mine were completely aligned.
Yeah.
Every value that I had was actually identified through the colors that I used in my painting, which was really neat. So I think just being able to identify that has really helped me um, in gaining clarity in decisions that I make in my professional life, in my personal life, in relationships, and that was a really monumental experience for me to be able to really identify and pinpoint what those things were outside of who I am in all the different roles that we play. Those were the things that were the core of what's most important to me, and that was a really cool moment for me,
Yeah.
being able to
I
experience
like
that.
I like that that you talked about how who we are before we become a mom, before we have that career that we're working on, or the business that we've started, like the person that we are before we have those roles and those titles. And you mentioned that, and I was like, oh, that's good, as a reminder of like the difference between the value and the vision, because the values are the foundation,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's who we be
Mm-hmm.
in the process of building towards a vision that
Mm-hmm.
we have for our life or our career or our impact, right? And so, using that as more of a guide to recognize, how we're aligning our vision with what's important at our core, at who we are, is, like you said, it's very monumental to have that shift. So, my question for you as a listener is, you know, write this down, for yourself, what you value right now. Think about that and then like take note of it, take stock of it. And there's a movie that I recommend, The Shift, and I don't remember, it has Dr. Wayne Dyer in it. I actually want to rewatch this movie for like the
I don't
third
think
time. It's
I
so
haven't
good.
seen that one, I
We
don't
did
think.
OP movie nights, the On Purpose movie nights, and that was one of them that Brenda had brought to the community. Definitely look that up. You can actually get it right on YouTube. The full video is on YouTube,
Okay.
The Shift. And I say that as part of this value conversation because it really depicts how our values shift in life, and that they're still there, but like the priority shifts. So, I think you even give the example like family, it may not be your number one. Well, when you become a new grandmother,
Right.
that changes your priorities in some order, right? When something else happens in our life and we move through a transition, our priorities shift as we grow and evolve. So that's where the important distinction for me over the years has gotten me more clear for myself is, what are my values and how am I prioritizing from the core within me, because I'm the one waking up and going to do the thing to build the vision. but I have to make sure that my values are aligned with me and where I'm at right now. And we can't BS our way through that because we won't get out of bed if we try and lie to ourselves about what's important. So the values first is the V because it's the foundation. It's how we go from a strong foundation to move forward with whatever we're building.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's move into the I. And of course, we can keep talking about values throughout this whole time. So the I for vision is imagine what's possible, right? Sometimes clarity comes from daring to imagine bigger things for our lives, right? Stepping outside of, our safe boxes, our comfort zones, getting to go to that edge of like what's possible and letting yourselves think about your future self. I'm a big person on, you know, thinking about who I want to continue to be or the things that I want to improve on so that I can look at a vision beyond just, even this year. And so, what do you see about the person that you're becoming, that future self? Or the person that you're embodying now, because really the future is now. And there's a book that I love about your future self, which is by Dr. Benjamin Hardy. And it's Be Your Future Self Now. And if you have not got that one, highly recommend that book. The audiobook, I've listened to it many times. Lots of great insights about how being right now in the present, we're shaping our future because of the choices and the decisions that we're making today is giving us a vote for the person that we are intentionally becoming. So, um, let's talk about like the bolder dreams that we have that we're leaning towards. Like we're working towards them today, even when we don't necessarily know it or feel like it, and we're having challenges, but like putting the imagination out there about what's possible. And actually, I have a couple different acronyms around it, but the other thing is, just really asking yourself, what does your future self look like? Right? What does she sound like? And or what is she embodying? I think about that. Like, how does she dress? Like today, I'm in a blazer, which I've had this for a long time, but like, I don't want to wear this every day, but I am practicing and being more of the podcast host, more of the leader that shows up and is more put together. Now, I don't have shoes on underneath this table, and I was in my slippers a little bit ago, but like how we show up and the energy that we bring as who we are today is giving a vote towards the person that we're actively becoming. So for me, thinking about the look of um, Becky as a leader, as um, the person that's hosting retreats and the podcast, she looks different than the homeschool mom
Mhm.
that's going to the park.
Mhm.
So
I
do you
think
give a lot of thought to your future self look, or like do you already know that becoming that you're working towards right now with
I
your vision?
when I was younger and not afraid to say that I'm 52 right now. So I've been through a lot of
Yeah.
different stages in life, right? And when I was younger, I definitely did not have that intentionality
Hmm.
behind imagining what was possible or where I wanted to go. Um, there's times in our lives where things can get so crazy that there's no intentionality. I mean, you're literally living moment to moment, trying to just simply survive whatever it is that you're going through at the moment.
Yeah.
And it's very difficult to imagine what's possible when you can hardly get through what's probable, um, on a daily basis. And so, I think I would almost change that, um,
For the
the
acronym.
acronym to like intentionally imagine what's
Mm.
possible. Because intentionally, everything that you said was very intentional.
Mm-hmm.
And someone who is, just getting into self-development, who's maybe just starting out in, really trying to focus on like, who am I as a person? What do I want to do? Um, there's a certain level of intentionality that you need to have behind doing all of this. Even just listening to the podcast that you're listening to right now, it was an intentional piece that you did because you want to learn more about self-development. You want to learn more about who you are and who you're becoming. Um, and so I think the intentionality part of that is really um, the basis of taking that step toward imagining what's possible.
Mm-hmm.
I think that imagining what's possible when you're 25 is different than imagining what's possible when you're 35, because we've got new experiences based on what we've lived through,
Mm-hmm.
and so that focus changes as we accomplish certain things, as we accomplish certain landmarks in our life and goals. And so, you keep continuing to push yourself. And when you intentionally imagine what's possible beyond what you've already accomplished, that's when you really start to have see that growth potential. If we imagine what's possible at 25 and we accomplish those goals and become that person by 35, say you want to accomplish a certain educational goal and you accomplish it by 25 or 28, I mean, um, then what? You
Mm-hmm.
have to intentionally ask yourself those questions because you never really get to that final point. Like there's always an ever evolving um, uh, process there that's continually developing, continually, growing you into what you want to become. And circumstances in our life change, right? So imagining what's possible um, at one point may look completely different if you have a major family traumatic event, for example,
Mm-hmm.
and losses in family change those priorities and change that. So constantly reimagining what's possible is very important, and constantly questioning, what is that, going back to your values, what is it that I value? What is it that I see going forward, despite what changes have happened in your life around you, where you can go with that.
Yeah, that's why that's exactly right. That because and I love that you brought it back to the values. Because what I was going to say is like that's why we start with the values because everything that we're saying and you saying intentionally. So right, when you know what your values are, now you're imagining with the understanding, right? That you
Mhm.
know your core values, you know that you know your heart vision. That's really what I
Right,
like to talk about is your heart vision. It's not just oh, someday I want to have a house and someday I want to have kids and those general visions and those
right,
ideas that get planted in us, but really the heart of what your vision is and what you want. And you can imagine those possibilities because we've started with a solid foundation of who we know we are.
right.
So yeah, I love that you add the word intentional because of course we have to if we can imagine anything, it's just like, yeah, I've talked to my clients about this a lot in coaching, which is like, oh yeah, I could go and do this and I could go and do this and I stop us and I'm like, yes, you can do any of those things, but what do you want? And I always think about the um whatever that movie is. Oh my gosh, with it's a love story that he's like shaking her and he's like, "What do you want in the rain?" Oh my gosh. And I can like see their faces. Rachel something and he's blonde. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, I'm trying to picture
Oh
it
my
because I
gosh, they do the
cannot.
rowboat scene and they're like drop soaked wet and she's like, "I don't know what I want." And he's like, "What do you want?" And he's yelling at her. Oh my gosh. Okay, Ryan something. Ryan and
Is it
Rachel.
the Notebook?
Yes, the notebook. Oh my gosh, the notebook. I was like, remember? I thought it was remember something. I was like,
The
no,
Notebook.
the notebook. I always think of that. So, what do you want? And I when I say that to my clients every time, I kind of just chuckle to myself because I think of that little gif or that little meme that is always him screaming at her, "What do you want?" Because that's really what it boils down to when we're thinking about values and we're thinking about what's possible. anything is possible.
Mhm.
But when you bring that intentionality with what you already know about yourself and what you value, now we're supercharging the vision to get super clear on how to make it happen by looking at what's possible. So, the prompt for you that's taking notes is if fear or limits weren't in our way, right? That's not a thing. What would you see her doing? Yourself, your future self, taking away the fear, taking away the limits. That's what I would love for you to journal on and think about today in intentionally imagining what's possible for you, thinking about your vision. Okay. So let's move to the S, which I have as simplify your steps. Again, we can bring complexity to everything in our world these days, right? The simplest things can get so complex. So, always
Mhm.
reminding myself, I know that this has been a huge thing for me personally, is that I think that there is 17 steps that need to happen, and really it's like two.
Mhm.
Right? So simplifying the steps to really get clear, right? That it isn't just about dreaming big and staying up here, but it's about being able to break it down and make it more simplistic
Mhm.
that I'm comfortable or more likely to take a step because it doesn't look like this whole big thing that's going to stop me at step two when that's really only two steps maybe in the
Mhm.
process. So, small steps, what small steps are you taking right now or recently that's made your vision more real in your life? Any examples come to mind for you?
Um, yeah. Um, when I think of uh, simplify your steps, I think about the steps taking action. That's what I see in my head. And we have the uncanny ability as humans to busy ourselves with all kinds of things that we feel are the steps that need to be taken in order for us to complete one grand project. Um, we can use this podcast as an example, right, Becky?
Let's use this as an example, shall we?
An example. What are the steps that need to be done? Realistically, we need to turn on the camera, we need to have a microphone.
Yeah,
Um, there's other things that we can busy ourselves with, the size of a table or the chairs or the
we
background,
did that today.
and and did do. Um, for me personally, I've been on the entrepreneur side for the last couple of years and have gone back to the corporate world. Um, I'm learning that although I have a heart that wants to serve, I also don't have the fortitude to keep focused on the things that I need to do when no one else is watching to move my business forward. So doing the work behind the scenes, even when I don't want to do it, basically. It's much easier at this stage in my life for me to have a time clock to punch and have that responsibility to uh, others and let others handle some of the bigger stuff. It's just easier for me at where I'm at with my own mental health journey and with all the things that have gone through with menopause and all the things. Simplifying the steps has been extremely important to my journey because I don't need to do all the busy things. You can have the perfect desk in the perfect office at your home and have all the things in your papers in the right spot and your printer and all of the pens that you need. Oh my gosh, my voice is just going crazy today. I
She's got things to say, that's why.
do. And you can have all of that stuff ready, but that's not actually taking action. Those things aren't moving your vision forward. They're simply busy work that's not actually taking steps toward any sort of outcome. So, um, I think the action behind the steps is really what needs to happen, in order to find that clarity in your vision and be able to, move into that intentionality process of imagining what's possible. You're intentionally taking action, simplifying those steps. So what are the things that actually need to happen? In sales world, we call that the revenue generating activities, RGAs, right? What are the things that are actually going to create revenue or changes in what it is that you have, that you want to accomplish? And so all the things having the desk in the right place and the papers in the right place and the phone and the
Yeah,
fact.
that's not it.
I'm just totally dating myself. I just said the word facts. Um, yeah, but all of those things are not what actually creates a business. It's not what actually creates your vision.
Mhm.
It's the simplified steps that you're taking each day to actually make those things happen. Um, so yeah, I love that.
I love that you say let's bring this podcast as the example because it truly is a great example of my life right now with really focusing on doing in-person interviews with my clients, with the contributing members in the OP family, like having these conversations in person to be able to have that energy is really important to me. That's part of my value system right now is like I want to be in person with my people at some level to have that. But, specifically the podcast is one of those things that I will tend to overthink because I've done it years before. I stopped, I questioned things, I went back and forth, I waffled on it, but the core piece that was missing for me is that I had to be honest with myself that I really want to do this in person. I really want to be able to have the energy of being in the same room versus only on the screen with the people that are coming to share
Mhm.
where they're at in their journey. And the simplifying is happening in real time for me, where I'm at right now. This is kind of a time capsule of like just doing it messy and figuring it out because it's going to continue to evolve and I'm just doing it, and figuring it out and how to have small group conversations and do all these things. Um, but another like thing is to think about how we celebrate those simple steps. So that's another note that I wanted to bring to the table is just, you know, ask yourself what's one step that you can take this week towards your vision, and then how will you celebrate once you've taken that step, right? So for me, the podcast example, um, the behind us on this wall, I'll describe it for you, is some affirmations that I literally put up last night. I set this up. I'm like, I wanted to start creating more of a vision of what do I want to be intentional about the background of the podcast and things. I'm a words of affirmation person. I love having reminders of words and all of that. So like that was something that these were gifted to me and I was like I love these. Let's start by just putting them up on the wall and seeing how I like it. I can change it. But I started thinking about the possibilities and then moving into a simple action of just putting something on the wall and deciding, is this what it is? Maybe not. And just knowing that I'm simplifying it instead of just continuing to overthink
Mhm.
how can I make this better? What
Right.
picture will look good on the wall? Well, I don't know until
Right.
I see it because that's the kind of person I am to visualize and clear is like I need to take a step toward that to know for sure. And then celebrating the fact that I did it messy. They've fallen off a couple times already this morning. There's some things that are just they're not even, but it's simplified. I said just start doing it. Just figure it out. So how are you going to celebrate yourself once you take that messy step this week and just keep it simple.
Yeah.
All right, the other eye for vision, our second eye, I have intuition as a guide. Now, often, again, we rethink or we overthink, I'm sorry, we overthink this clarity piece, right? Our gut already knows. And this is something that I've personally over the last however many years have really been three for sure. The last 3 to 4 years, it's like I started to recognize that I had a vision, but it was less clear because I was less clear about what my gut was telling me. My intuition was sending me signals in different ways. My body was reacting in different ways that this isn't it. This isn't it. This isn't quite it. It wasn't the right direction yet. And it was like this pivot that was happening that I was, again, not being very honest with myself. This is a key thing that I'm recognizing in how being direct and honest with yourself about what you want. And this is where journaling has been really powerful for me and just doing these kind of prompts that seem silly. I get it. It seems silly to like write out sometimes like what you're feeling, what you really want. And the power in that is that you can be transparent and honest instead of only talking about it. You're being true to yourself by writing it on paper. So
Well,
listening to your intuition as a
as a
guide.
as a side note, I will say that don't say that it's silly to write things down that you want.
Yeah.
There's actually Harvard studies that show that by writing down, physically writing down the things that you want to accomplish, your goals, that you are, I don't know, definitely more likely
Yeah,
to
there's
accomplish them.
there's numbers though.
I don't know.
Yeah,
There are numbers
for sure.
behind that. And there were studies behind, of Harvard graduates
Hmm.
who wrote their goals down at the beginning of the year, and those who did not, who just simply thought about their goals, but didn't actually physically write them down. And the ones who wrote them down were more likely to accomplish those goals and did accomplish those goals. So
Hmm.
there's actual science behind writing down your goals, even if you don't look at it, if it's in a journal and it's sitting on your shelf all year long. Um, Writing down your goals simply helps you to your subconscious knows what those goals were when you wrote them down, and so subconsciously you're still making decisions throughout the year even though you don't think about it, whether it's paying down your debt, whether it's accomplishing a certain physical goal, right? Like you want to become more physically fit, whatever those goals are, it's in your subconscious. So there's science behind that. So that's not a silly thing. So I just wanted to point that out
It is, yeah.
before we go on.
Yeah, no, and you're right. It definitely is. And and when I say the silly part, I think about like journaling on like how are you feeling about things versus like goals. And like because I was someone that I could write down my goals, but I personally wouldn't write questions to answer to myself, like self-reflection journaling to kind of get to that intuition tap to know like what's going well, what's feeling off for me and be honest with myself because I'm not talking to somebody about it. And when someone just would, say something in passing, I would kind of glaze over it. And which I feel like a lot of people do that. And this is where, for me, the intuition as my guide, it came from giving myself the space to write. And you're right, it's the head to the heart through the hand that ends up bringing these connections that it makes our intuition actually come more to the surface because now we're giving her some energy and some say
Mhm.
about how are we doing and feeling those nudges. So the question is, what is your gut? What has your gut been nudging you to move towards lately that maybe you haven't been listening yet? Or you've been kind of shoving off like that's kind of weird. I don't know. I don't know. Just kind
I
of
have
pushing it off.
I have a really interesting story about intuition
Mm.
and dating. Okay. And this was, years ago prior to me meeting my now partner. And I was going through the world of online dating, and I would have these, dates with people, and I would have a great connection, right? Where I thought, gosh, we talked really good. We had a lot of things in common. Everything went really good. My intuition says that this was a great connection, that gosh, this is going to go somewhere. And then I would get ghosted and I would never heard from again. And, in the back of my mind, my self-conscious kept telling me that it was my fault, that it was something that I was doing wrong, that it was something that, was wrong with me, that I was not lovable, that I just, wasn't meant to be in a relationship. And I had been dating someone. My intuition told me when I should say that when I went on the first date with my now partner, um, I my intuition said, okay, he's a nice guy, but there's things. And my second date was okay. We had a date. I wanted to watch the Packers Bears game, and I had
That's
just had
gutsy.
surgery the day before. So I'm
Mhm.
blaming my bad decisions on the surgery and the pain medication that I was on for my knee surgery. Um, but he talked through the whole entire thing. Like I really wanted to watch this game. We went to a bar to watch it because I didn't have a TV at the time, and I was living a very, very meager lifestyle, a very low means my lifestyle at the time, and he talked through the whole thing, and it was really annoying. And after the third date, where he talked about his ex-wife and the things that he didn't like, and I knew he was probably nervous. And after the third date, we had gone to a comedy show and he just didn't get the comedy. And I was like, okay, yeah, this is a no-go. Like three times we're done. Like this is just, I'm not feeling it. And at the same time, I had been dating another individual and um, I was supposed to go on a date or do something. And I was waiting for this individual to call me, and it was like this big ton of bricks that just kind of fell on my head. And I said to myself, why in the world am I waiting for someone to call me who might or might not be out with another person, who can't possibly make any kind of future plans with me? And when I have this other individual who wants to treat me like a queen, who has his, stuff together in life, he, in my opinion, that was what I was,
That was a
did to
part of
him.
the
That was part
value.
of the
Yeah.
values. He didn't have any crazy exes. He didn't have, any major, his kids were grown. He had a job. He had a house. I wasn't looking for materialistic things as he drove an old beat up Chevy Impala when I met him. So, that didn't bother me at all. Um, but the thing is, he wanted to treat me, like a queen, and he really did. And we had some good conversations, and I thought, what in the world am I doing? I deserve better than this.
Yeah.
And my intuition changed at that point. Um, and so sometimes we can trust our intuition and we can say that this is like something good, but realistically, there's other things that can alter that intuition and really make us think that it's a bad decision or that it's something, and at that point in my life, I was like, whatever my intuition tells me, I'm going to do the exact
Oh
opposite
no.
because I
Yeah.
had made such bad decisions prior. And
Yeah.
so, my intuition was telling me after the third date that this was not a go. And I'm like, you know what? I need to take a chance on something different because what's the definition of insanity is doing the same things over and over again,
Right.
dating the same people, doing the same activities over and over again, but expecting a different result.
Hmm.
And so I knew that I needed to try something that was unconventional, that was a little bit different. And when I saw him again, because he was a customer of mine where I worked, and when I saw him again, I said, hey, I don't want this to be weird. I told him at one point that I wasn't feeling it, and saw him about a week later, and we talked for like 20 minutes, and it was an easy conversation. And I thought, maybe I need to give this another chance. And so we did, and well, that was the end of the story because it's been
He's
9 years
the partner.
now. He's the partner. So, I was to the point where like whatever my intuition told me, I needed to do the exact opposite because I just couldn't trust myself anymore. And my gut um, was skewed by my trauma, by things that had happened in my life. And so I just didn't think that I was worthy of other things. And I felt like I was worthy. I was only good enough to be this side piece, if you will,
Mhm.
where people, that I didn't deserve to
But
get
you
the
had to wait by the
respect.
phone.
Yes, that I
You were
needed to
waiting.
wait. And realistically, it was, just my own trauma and experiences that said that that's all that I was worthy of. And really, I needed to wait until I could figure out that I really was worthy of way more than that. And that
Worthy of being pursued is like what I
yes,
just keep thinking of. Like he was like, yes, I want to go out with you. I want to have these. And then you were like looking for someone that was,
I had
you
some
thought someone was,
weird intellectual connection
yeah.
with, and
Hmm.
I didn't have that feeling the first couple of dates. And so, that was like oh, he's too nice kind of a situation. And realistically,
Yeah.
when people tell me that now, I'm like, you need to give the nice guy a chance
It's
because,
my husband. I said that forever,
yes,
forever until my friends, they literally kept inviting my husband to come hang out with us because I was like, he's too nice. That guy's, I can already
yeah,
tell, like, he looks too nice for me. And they were like, no, he's coming, he's coming. And then eventually I gave him a chance because exactly right. I was like, no, I deserve a nice man.
yes,
I deserve to have that. I deserve someone to
absolutely.
dote on me. I was exactly, I can totally see myself. So I think that that'll really hit with our listeners too, to recognize like
Yes,
that we're worthy of being pursued and being someone that someone looks forward to being by and
100%.
wants to be around. I love that example too. That's so funny to like hear and just picture like how that plays out in real life situations. And so something I thought of that I wanted to ask you before we move into the O is, is there anything like practical that you were like you did or that you do to like tap in your intuition, right? Because when you were saying my intuition was saying this and then it ended up being this, I was like, yeah, but maybe that was just our head, right? Like, how do we know when it's our head talking versus our intuition? So, is there anything like journaling or, just meditating or praying or like anything practical that you found for tapping into your own intuition that you can really like give, you know, some weight to about it?
I would say that um, that entire year prior to meeting my ex was a year of changes and a year of me making choices that I didn't want to be in the same place that I was 10 years prior, right?
Right.
And so um, it was all about me very intentionally making different decisions based on what I wanted my outcome to be. So I wanted to be more physically fit. I didn't care about losing weight. I was already at a very reasonable weight. I was fine with my weight. I just wanted my body to look better. I wanted to feel better in my body at that time. And so I didn't want to be embarrassed when I wore shorts in the summertime. I didn't want to have the dimples on my legs, right? I was, skinny, if you will call that. I was small at the time, but I just wasn't comfortable with wearing, sleeveless shirts because I had the flabby arms and, had lost a ton of weight and I wanted to be physically fit. So that was a thing where it's like, okay, I want this, but what am I willing to do to actually make that happen? And so the steps that I took was, you know what? I joined the gym and I was very, very uh, poor at the time, and I can say poor like I was dirt poor. So I had to figure out where I was going to get that $20 a month from, and so that came from cutting back on going to see the comedy show once every other week. And so that $10 for each comedy show was my $20 for my gym membership, and that's what I sacrificed in order to be able to make that happen. So there were things that I very intentionally made different choices about um, throughout that year. And so when it came time for, me to make that decision, you know, it happened very naturally. And it was, like I said, it was like a ton of bricks just fell on my head that day. And I immediately told that other person, um, that I was no longer interested. I'm like, I don't care who you're with or what you're doing. I deserve to be with somebody who is going to make plans to be with me and not like, oh, sure, I'll be your date.
A second thought.
If I have nothing better to do and you're the only person left on the planet, sure, I'll make a plan with you. I'll have to check my calendar though. You know,
Yeah.
I deserve to be on somebody's the priority list and not just the leftovers if they have time for me kind of thing.
I love that. This is exactly it. Because okay, so this is awesome because your value was your health, your
Yes,
fitness.
yes.
You valued taking care of yourself
Hmm.
physically, and that was, and that was, you made yourself a priority.
Yes,
Your priority was, you were on the top. So then
yes.
when you got back to getting in the relationship scene and we're looking for, yeah, I want to find a partner, and I'm looking for someone that is also going to put me on their priority list
Hmm.
because you were already honoring you.
Yes.
And in the past, I bet that probably wasn't the case.
No.
You were looking for the validation from someone else,
Yes.
and you didn't need that from
No.
this time in your life. You were ready because your values shifted to
Hmm.
know, like, I'm going to the gym, I'm doing these things for me, and then you recognize your own self-worth to say, I'm worth that.
Yep.
That effort, that planning, that intention of being with me, I'm worthy of that.
Yep.
And then you held that.
Yep.
That's a great example. I love this. Okay, and then so we're gonna go into the O because I just like, oh, that was great. Okay, so the O in our acronym is overcome the obstacles, right? Every vision that we have, it hits resistance. We have things that get built up around fear or self-doubt, or, if we're going on a journey here, then we're going to be taking some detours, so to say. We need those pit stops and things that come up. But there's resistance of some kind that happens, and that's still a great example, thinking about, well, 3 dates and questioning like how compatible, or how, all those things, and then understanding like we still need to make changes from the past patterns that they kept coming because we weren't making a different choice.
Mhm.
So now overcoming those obstacles, it's like you're going to face something. And when you do, that's why having our values in place as the foundation so that we can break these things down that we're
Mhm.
already going through, they all build for how we move forward with it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, people find obstacles. I mean, we look for obstacles, really. We look for those excuses to not move forward in what we want to do and
Mm,
to not move
it's a good
forward
point.
in accomplishing what we want to accomplish.
That's
Um,
the straightening of the pencils and
yeah, yeah,
getting the
absolutely.
getting the papers
I
right.
need this, I need that. Um, and
Over complexity.
realistically, the summer that I made this change in my life, and this was back in would have been 2016,
Okay.
so about 9 years ago.
Hmm.
And when I made these changes in my life, I made a series of changes. I made the least amount of money I've ever made in my entire life that year, and I was at peace with myself.
Mm.
I had so much joy that summer. I did made choices that summer that had nothing to do with money, that didn't require money. I would go to the beach. I'd pack sandwiches
Yep.
from home. I took a cooler I quit buying drinks at gas stations. Prior to that, I was like a huge Monster fan, and so that was $2 a day. Well, $2 a day times 30 days in a month, that's 60
Yep.
bucks right there. So there were so many different little things that I changed my behavior on that year,
Mm.
and did lots of things for free because the beach is free. There's no
Hmm.
cost to go there. I can lay out my blanket. I had a beanbag toss game, and I would set that up, and I would just play with people that I met. I didn't need to go
Oh, I
with
love that.
anybody. I went by myself,
Mm.
brought a book, and just had that time for me. Really, really, really invested in myself that year. And, spent a lot of time with friends who had boats on the river and had all this complicated stuff going on. I could go visit them and I didn't have to take care of any of it. It was great. I loved being able to do that and being a
Yeah.
part of that. It didn't cost me anything. And so,
Mm.
there was a whole shift that entire year in what my values were. And although it wasn't written down, I didn't go through the journaling process at that point. There were certain things that I had journaled and documented, but um, it was still very much an intentional practice on a daily basis for me.
Mm.
Going to the gym, making sure that I was making myself a priority. Instead of, using, oh, I don't have any money, I can't have fun, kind of as an example, I found the things that I could do with my time. So, what can I do with what I've got?
Yeah.
That utilitarian aspect of what my values are. And so that's where I really overcame those obstacles to what most people would find as difficult choices. When it comes to going to the gym, they don't have the ability to get a membership. Well, I can't get in shape because of this, or I can't do that because of this.
Hmm.
Um, I spent a lot of time overcoming those obstacles, and I was very, very proud of what I was able to accomplish with very little monetary resources that summer, and personal development just based on my values and readjusting that priority to myself.
So thinking about that and how earlier I said, celebrating ourselves and how important that is. Do you think that, I mean, in hindsight, right, we can look back and say like, oh my gosh, I was so resilient. I was so like, I just did what I had to do. Like, do you think that you fully understood like the power that you were holding? Or is it a looking back now, you're like, dang, like that I didn't need to look at every step written out like we were talking about, but there was moves that you made that made the difference and now you can see it, with experience, or in those moments were you celebrating each time you were like, yeah, I'm making do every month. I'm doing me. This is going well. Like
I
talk
was
about
going to
the
say,
celebration a little bit of that. Was it there or?
there was a little bit of that. I did treat myself every once in a while to go into a comedy show. That was really something that was very fun and popular for me. And at the club that they had the comedy shows, they had a karaoke
Ah.
machine, and so we did karaoke as well. So, like, there were things that I rewarded myself with. But going to the gym was one of my priorities. And so when I would celebrate by doing something little. I didn't do something, super extravagant. It was something that was still within what I could afford to do, but still something I valued, which was spending time with my friends, having fun,
Yeah.
being creative. Fun is one of my values, is one of my seven values. Because if something isn't fun, then why are we
Why are
doing
we
it?
doing it?
Right. And so, that was one of my seven values. And looking back, I can see where a lot of those values applied even then, before I even really knew or had I even identified what they were. Um, but, I still rewarded myself through, by taking the time to do those fun things here and there. And I don't know if I really fully understood the depth at which that change was.
Yeah.
I mean, I knew that I was going through some major changes at that time.
I
Um,
mean, your partner was proof of that. You
right,
were you were getting a
right.
different result.
Right. But I started these changes in February of that year. And really, I hadn't met my partner until October of that year.
Yeah.
So,
So
I
you were
mean,
putting
there
the
were a
work
lot of
in.
things that had gone
Yeah.
through changes, people that I had, taken chances on, that I had dated. Um, that I would have never been able to date, and just elevating my game a little bit to the next level of what my expectations were,
Yeah.
um, out of not just the myself, but really, the people that I was spending time with.
Mm-hmm.
And, how they say that, your uh, average income is going to be the average income of the five closest people that you spend time with.
Mm.
And so, you know, I took that to heart and really, was trying to identify, like, okay, who am I spending time with? Who am I, really around? And what do I need to do to get myself to that next level in the game, and trying to eliminate all those obstacles in the meantime. Um, so
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I didn't really get it then. I didn't see the full extension of it. Um, until a little bit later. But
Mm-hmm.
now looking back, I can realize, and there were some other things that were changing in my life. My youngest son was going into his senior year of high school, so he was very independent. going off to be a college in a year after that. So, my time opened up a lot. Like my
Those
priorities
values
shifted
definitely shifted. Yep.
because he was very self-sufficient. He was working a full-time job. I didn't, my other son was off at college and, did not come home during the summers. He would work during the summers and would travel during the summers. So, you know, I didn't have anything else filling my time other than me.
Hmm.
So it really was the universe allowing me to um, really be introspective at that time and take that time for myself. And I really did. I utilized that opportunity
Yeah.
to, look inward, and there were no obstacles. There were no kids. There were no, I didn't make money an obstacle. I had the time. I worked one job, which was the first time in years because my son was working his
Mm,
own job. So I didn't have to work three jobs to be able to
yeah.
support the family. He was taking care of himself and he was taking care of things on his own. So that really freed up, my time from, being able to pull back a little bit and be
Hmm.
able to focus on just, okay, I'm just going
Filling
to do
yourself
this.
up.
Yes. And really pouring into myself at that time.
Yeah. I love that. And the other thing I just wanted to point out too, it was when you talked about going to the beach and just like it's free and like I love that you took yourself. Like that's another thing that I absolutely hear, know, and I've also been guilty of the fact that I hold myself back thinking I have to go with someone
Mhm.
versus be your own best friend, be your own biggest fan first. And I love that you brought something that was like going to draw people to you and then invite people in, which is so truth telling also about the energy that we bring
That's
to the
true.
table where we go and how important it is that if you don't want to go to the place and you force yourself to go, you're not they're not receiving, you're not receiving, like it's not helpful. It's counterintuitive because you don't want to be there. It's not fun. Your
Right.
energy is blocking
Yeah.
what's actually what you want to attract because you don't even want to be there. So
Yeah.
the fact that you wanted to go have fun, you wanted to go just enjoy the beach, it's free, it's all these things, and you brought something that was fun and engaging and could invite people in, that's attraction.
Yeah.
I love that.
There
I
were,
love that you made sure that that detail was in there because I caught that. Like you went by yourself. I'm like, dang, like people these days are like, well, I don't have anyone to go with. And they won't go. And I've done it thinking I needed to.
that
And
year.
the times that I push through it, I meet people. I find people. And I'm like, I would have never met them if I didn't push through that discomfort of thinking I can't go, just me.
Always. Yeah.
Always.
I take pride in the fact that
I love that.
I have no problem going to a movie by myself. If I want to go do something by myself, I will.
Yeah.
Um, that year, I, was trying to find a date for a concert. I won free tickets on the radio, and I was trying to find a date to go.
Yeah.
Could not find a date. I tried like bribing a friend of mine who owned the comedy club actually to be able to, come with me because I really wanted someone to go to. And not just because I wanted to have someone to go with, but I really wanted to be able to share the experience of this concert with other people. And I could not find a date. And so I resolved I would go by myself. And I drove to a city that was an hour and a half away to go to a concert at a venue that I've never been to before and had an absolute blast. Met a couple of, people that were standing around me at this venue. And it was a super fun time. And I don't regret going at all. In fact, I made lots of choices like that throughout the summer because I refused to, and it was on Valentine's Day. It
Uh,
was the worst. I'm like, on Valentine's Day, I couldn't buy myself a date on
aw,
Valentine's Day. It
yeah.
was terrible. And in all other uh situations and circumstances, most people would be like super down on themselves and like feeling really sorry for themselves because they couldn't get a date and blah blah blah.
Right.
not going. And I'm
Like
like,
all the excuses,
I
not
will
overcome those
be, I'll
obstacles.
be damned if I'm not going to go to this concert. Like I am going to the concert no matter what.
I
So
love it.
I did, and I made those kind of choices throughout the year, regardless of whether or not I had to do it by myself. And by putting in the time and putting that energy out there that I wanted to attract and that I wanted to find people, um, eventually I did. I, it's funny because the my partner had seen me at a bar prior. Like I would go out with friends a lot. I
Yeah.
loved live music and live bands and had my favorite friends that I would go, go to bands with. And he had seen me out the week prior to him actually meeting me at the store and did not have the guts to talk to me, thought that I was there with someone else, and I wasn't, and did not have the nerve to talk to me. And I laugh at that because I'm like, I am not a scary person. Like, I don't think I'm a scary person, but apparently I was giving off such confident vibes then that even
He
this
thought you were out
individual,
of his
yeah,
league.
even this individual who, is super confident in what he does, didn't have the confidence to come and talk to
Yeah.
me. And so, yeah, clearly the vibe that I was given out that year was like one of confidence, and that's really intimidating to
Yeah.
some people and to some men.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm pretty proud of that actually.
Yeah, vibe. I love it.
Love it. Yeah.
That's great. I mean, okay, so we didn't even say the N of the acronym, but it is nurture the now. And this actually ties in really well, the concert example that you just said, because clarity isn't just about the future. It's about being in the present today. So your example of I want to go to this concert. I don't have anyone to go with. There's the obstacle, right? We identified what you wanted. Then you identified or you saw that there was some kind of an obstacle, but you didn't make it an obstacle. You hell or high water, you were going.
Yeah.
So you eliminated your obstacles, you overcame them, and you were present with the fact that I'm going to this thing, regardless of the day of the year, whatever, who is available to
Hmm.
go. You kept pushing through, knowing that you were gonna go no matter what. It was in your future to go
Hmm.
today. So how are we nurturing ourselves right now in the present so that we can be living with more purpose daily, right? Because this is where we're creating our future self and building toward our vision. We're nurturing it right now in the present. So being here with Tara in person for this conversation is nurturing the leader, the podcast host that I am future casting to have a mobile studio, to be able to go and do these things in person all the time and simplify it with the mobile studio so I don't have all these complexities in my life stalling me from being more of who I know I am, to hold space for these conversations, for people to have awarenesses like, oh yeah, like I know from experience, from my life experiences, I have the power to create what I want in my life, because you do.
Hmm.
We all do. And we forget that easily because of the day to day that we're in, the challenges that
Hmm.
we're in, because it's not if, it's when we get in those challenges, those trials. And if we are unconscious of the fact that we'll get through it, but now circling back to what we value, right? So I'm just going to break down this acronym quickly because, we had a lot of great conversation in the middle here. So the V for vision is values first, because vision has to be rooted in what matters most to you. Okay. The I is imagine what's possible, intentionally imagine what's possible, right? Dreaming bigger than our current reality. The S is for those simplified steps, making our vision practical and doable so that it doesn't stop us. We keep going. The I is for intuition as our guide. So trusting our own inner guidance, our own voice, to know that we know our values and that we can see what's possible for ourselves, and then simplifying it, right? Trusting the inner voice on that. And the O is for overcoming those obstacles, moving through the fear, the resistance that will come to challenge us, to make sure that this is what we want. That's actually just a reminder. That is a signal, our challenge, our resistance. A lot of times we think it's a signal to stop. I practice knowing that it's a signal to go, to move
Mhm.
forward. It's just discomfort. It's not pain, it's discomfort. Keep going. Okay. We'll get a full stop sign when it's time to stop. But in the meantime, you keep going, overcome those obstacles, and keep building through that resistance.
Definitely.
And then the N is to nurture now, living with the presence as we are growing forward, and the importance of being grateful for where we are right now. Nurture those opportunities that come to us and make the best out of them.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I encourage you to, take a little time, digest this acronym for yourself. Think about the examples that Tara has shared that we've drawn out today, and just go through these prompts. And the real transformation is coming when you give yourself the space to just sit with what comes up for you. What are the examples that you've heard that resonated with you that you're like, yes, I'm going to do that action, or I'm missing this piece, or how it feels for you. So that's our encouragement for you. So Tara, as we wrap up, I want to say thank you
Oh,
for taking the time to
you're
come in
welcome.
person with me. Of course, because you want to be by me.
Of
You
course.
want to be in the energy. But being able to share your experience, talk about the past that, has helped shape who you are
Mhm.
today, and recognize that. I appreciate you sharing.
And I appreciate you inviting me here today.
Yeah,
It's been wonderful to share.
absolutely. So, is there anything that you would say to our listeners as we wrap up with our vision clarity acronym?
I think don't overthink it.
Hmm.
Keeping it simple, going to that step of simplifying your steps. Don't overthink what your values are. Um, don't overthink what the steps are. Just trying to keep it simple because that really is where the clarity comes from, is from that simplicity in focus, in vision. But also understand that if you're at a point in your life where you really haven't done a lot of self-reflection,
Hmm.
that you are going to have to do some work to be able to identify those values, to identify that foundation. It's not just going to happen overnight.
Yeah.
There's always work that needs to go into it, and also recognizing that depending on where you're at in your life, that those things could change. Now, our values typically aren't going to change that much throughout life. They're going to be relatively consistent. You'll see yourself making similar decisions, valuing similar things, although the priorities in your life at that time are going to change. The values that I identified, I can see in all the decisions that I had made throughout life.
Hmm.
I can see very realistically how those values manifested themselves through my daily life. And so, just to be aware that it takes work. It doesn't happen overnight. And depending on where you're at in your life, your process might look a little bit different or things might change as you go. Um, but if you do the work and focus on the acronym, focus on those steps, um, that you can gain clarity of vision, and that you really can find that focus in what you want to do and who you are.
Yeah. I love it. And I love that you say, you know, get that focus, because in the work, because the virtual community is called work on purpose, with purpose, for a reason. And it's not about just work, it's about inner work. That this is
Mhm.
actually the work,
Yeah.
the self development, the personal growth. That
Mhm.
is the work. I fully believe that that is the work that is challenges us, is like reflect. be a mirror, be willing to nakedly see what's working in your life and what's not, and strip away those pieces that it's not who you are. It's
Mm-hmm.
who someone else maybe told you who you are, and that you're not tapping into that intuition. So
Mm-hmm.
do the work of giving yourself the gift of recognizing the growth that you've already had, the progress that you're already making, and we all have things that we can improve on and look at to sharpen that vision, right? To get more clear on where we're growing in our lives. And that's what these acronyms, these conversations are building as a strategy for you to do the self-work with intention. So, if you're looking for that in a virtual community, we got that for the Work on Purpose with Purpose community. I'll have information in the show notes. Come here, witness each other in growth on those virtual calls. You don't have to be in person, but of course, you can come in person on these conversations when you're part of the community as well. As this is the strategy hour for our community. So Tara, thank you again for taking the time to be in person and share your insights and give yourself the opportunity to reflect on your growth.
You're welcome. Thank
Thank you
you.
for letting me witness that.
Thank you.
So, I'm Becky Plautz. This is the Choose on Purpose podcast, and love yourself, live fearlessly until next week. We'll see you then.